So UFC 324, the first Paramount card, is taking place next weekend, and the main event is Justin Gaethje versus Paddy the Body Lad. And a lot of people have mixed opinions about this main event because it's for the interim lightweight belt, and a very big portion of the fan base believes that Arman Tsarukyan should be next in line for a title shot against Ilia Topuria. And I actually agree. I think he's more deserving than both Paddy and Gaethje, and I think a fight between Arman and Topuria would be a lot more competitive than the winner of Pimblett Gaethje fighting Topuria. However, we are in the age of undeserved title shots. The UFC prioritizing a bigger name like Paddy Pimblett is nothing new. We've seen it before with guys like Sean O'Malley, and I knew the UFC was trying to make Paddy versus Ilia straight away after Topuria won the lightweight belt and was getting interviewed by Joe Rogan. Because when he was midway through calling out Arman, Joe Rogan said, "He's talking about Paddy Pimblett, folks." And when you look at the people he's fought, it couldn't be less obvious that they want this guy in a title fight. This dude has had one of the most fraudulent paths to a title elimination bout I've ever seen, beating up on unks like Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, and Bobby Green, as well as winning a robbery decision against Jared Gordon, although I think he broke his hand or something early in that fight, but still, his resume is full of unks. This dude is literally an industry plant. But going into UFC 324, a lot of people are counting out Justin Gaethje because of the fact that he has zero jiu-jitsu, and Paddy Pimblett's biggest strength being jiu-jitsu, but I actually think that this fight is a lot more complicated than that. So in this video, I'm gonna break down and predict this fight, and you already know how it goes. Let's go over the strengths and weaknesses of each fighter, starting off with Paddy the Body Lad. And Paddy's biggest strength is of course his grappling. Majority of his wins are by submission, and he also has pretty good ground and pound. Now a lot of people do like to clown on his striking, but I actually don't think he's too bad offensively. His striking game consists mainly of kicks, and he also has a pretty good jab, and overall he has pretty decent straight punches, and he actually has pretty good distance management as well. A good example of that was when he fought Bobby Green, where he just kept him at kicking range basically the whole fight. Now he does have some weaknesses though, and the most obvious one is his boxing defense. It's honestly absolutely horrendous if I'm being honest. Like, first of all, his shin is just up in the air, and whenever he's throwing punches, his guarding hand that should be glued to his shin almost always falls back down to his waist, which leaves him completely open for counters. And I also think another big flaw in his game is his offensive wrestling, and what I mean by that is that in order to use his biggest strength, aka his jiu-jitsu, he has to get the fight to the ground, and even though his wrestling isn't bad, it's not really the best either. But we move on to Justin Gaethje, and Justin Gaethje is of course a striker, and a pretty underrated one in my opinion. He has pretty nice boxing and a lot of power in his hands, and he's also pretty good at landing uppercuts in the clinch as well as punches when they disengage from the clinch. And something I don't really see people talk about is his speed. Justin Gaethje is pretty fast on the feet, I'm not gonna lie you guys. Now aside from his boxing, he also has some really powerful leg kicks, and he has also started using a lot more head kicks recently in his career, with the most obvious example being when he KO'd Dustin Poirier. But his biggest weakness is of course his grappling. I mean, his takedown defense is alright, like his main defense is just rolling basically when he gets taken down, but as soon as it hits the ground, he just has no clue what he's doing. He's cooked against a good grappler on the ground. And another big weakness is body shots and body kicks, because he has a really long torso, so he can't really block punches or kicks to the body without dropping his own guard and leaving his head unprotected. And Fiziev exploited this weakness very well in the third round of the second fight, where he landed like literally 5 body kicks in a row at the start of the round without any setups, by the way. Now let's go over the win conditions for each fighter, starting with Paddy Pimblett, and he's obviously gonna want to take this fight to the ground, where he's at his best and where Gaethje is at his worst. However, I do think he'll have some trouble taking down Gaethje, but in that second fight with Fiziev, Gaethje got taken down twice because Fiziev caught the leg kicks, and I think this can be a very effective way of taking down Gaethje for Paddy, because even though Gaethje has a lot of power in those leg kicks, he has to wind them up a lot, so they are pretty telegraphed. But Paddy has to be careful though, because Gaethje does throw head kicks as well. Now when it comes to striking, he's gonna want to kick max at range, and I want to see him throw a lot of body kicks in this fight, because as we just went over, Gaethje is very susceptible to attacks to the body, and I just don't think it's a good idea for Paddy Pimblett to try to box or brawl with Gaethje, because if he does, Schaus is maar geen nog te laat. So stick to kick maxing at range and throw out a couple of jabs here and there. Now Gaethje on the other hand is gonna have to do his absolute best to keep this fight on the feet. He really does not want to go to the ground with Paddy Pimblett here, because because if he does, he's probably cooked. And on the feet, he's gonna want to get this fight into boxing range because he's honestly a way better boxer than Paddy, both offensively and defensively, and he's gonna have a pretty big power advantage as well. And Paddy leaves himself very open whenever he's throwing punches, so if Gaethje gets past the kicks of Paddy's gonna be in a lot of trouble. But even if he has trouble taking this fight into boxing range, which I don't think he will because he's fast and he's not at a big reach disadvantage, he still has his leg kicks and his head kicks, but he is gonna have to be a bit careful of throwing those leg kicks without any setups, because if he does, then there's a pretty chance that Paddy, like Fiziev, catches the kick and then takes him down. So I want him to set up the leg kicks with punches first, and I also want to see those head kicks fly, because I do think Paddy is gonna be looking to catch leg kicks in order to take this fight to the ground. But this fight is pretty interesting in my opinion, because I can honestly see them both winning. Like, Justin Gaethje is really bad on the ground, as we all know, that's Paddy's specialty, but on the other hand, Paddy's boxing defense is really bad, and Gaethje has nasty hands and a lot of power. He's one of the most powerful punchers at lightweight, but Paddy's not completely helpless when it comes to defense because he does have his distance management, which is honestly pretty good. But what I fear is that Paddy's gonna get sucked into a brawl with Justin Gaethje, because he does get a bit scrappy in his fights, and against Chandler, who's also more of a brawler, he had a lot of success, but Chandler sucks and he's a lot less technical than Justin Gaethje. But I do think Paddy's gonna have more respect for Gaethje on the feet and stick to the game plan of primarily kick maxing at long range, like he usually does, but especially in this fight, because him and his team must have picked up on the fact that Gaethje is always open to the body. Like, if they haven't, I'm gonna be very surprised. But even if he fights according to the game plan on the feet, I still think Gaethje is gonna have a lot of success simply because he's the superior striker in my opinion, and he's also fast, and he's not gonna have that much trouble with closing the distance on Paddy Pimblett, and there's not even gonna be that much distance to close because they're pretty similar in height and reach, with Paddy having a slight advantage. And even at long range, Gaethje has his leg kicks. However, I believe that could be his Achilles heel in this fight, because I think Paddy's gonna use them as a way to bring the fight to the ground, and if he gets the fight to the ground, he's gonna dominate Justin Gaethje. They're just at two completely different levels when it comes to their grappling, and catching Gaethje's leg kicks in order to take him down is gonna be big here for Paddy Pimblett, because I honestly think he's gonna have somewhat of a difficult time taking this fight to the ground otherwise, because again, he's not really a wrestler, he doesn't really shoot takedowns that much, and even though those leg kicks are very powerful, they're also pretty telegraphed, so Paddy can use that to his advantage like Fiziev did and take Gaethje down. And I mean, if Fiziev is able to get Gaethje down and keep him there for some decent time, Gaethje's gonna be pretty cooked if he gets to the ground with Paddy Pimblett. But there are also other ways for Paddy to get this fight to the ground, like hurting Gaethje on the feet first, then taking him down, which isn't impossible because Gaethje has been in his fair share of wars, so that chin is starting to get a little bit iffy, and Paddy could also hurt him to the body with kicks and then get the takedown. So that's why I'm kind of leaning more towards Paddy in this fight. I just believe that at some point this fight is gonna go to the ground due to either Paddy getting a takedown off a leg kick, hurting Gaethje, or just taking him down plain and simple. And when that happens, I think there's a very big likelihood that Gaethje gets submitted or finished, even bigger than Paddy getting hurt on the feet, because at least Paddy has his distance management and his kicks. Gaethje has absolutely nothing on the ground for Pimblett. He's straight up cooked. So yeah, I will be going with Paddy Pimblett in this fight, but I think that's enough yap for today, guys. Check out my last video. It was about what animals I could beat in a fight. But anyways, thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe for some of the best yap on MMA YouTube. Am I just a Paddy Pimblett glazer, or do you agree with me? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and also don't forget to share this to every Paddy Pimblett fanboy you know, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye!